I made these videos on the road back to wealth because I think it's important to focus on something in the future, apart from the dynamics of the current situation, in which you can kind of see a vision of a society that's more wealthy, maybe not more rich and more consumer driven, but at least with more happy, healthy people and a more sane government. And this time I would like to talk about education. I used to be a neuroscientist. I studied the brain for 10 years or so. And one of my conclusions was that the brain really doesn't have an anchor. It really doesn't have any way of knowing what is true or not. That's not its function. So its function basically, and you can understand that of course, is to control a body, the body that's in, and it never knows what size it is or how old it is, and it's constantly changing. So the brain more or less has to always try to adapt to whatever situation, whatever body it finds itself in, and because of that it can never know anything for sure. It can only try, and that's what it does, to help in the control of the body by predicting and reactivating previous experiences that it has had based on whatever it experiences now. So if you hear the beginning of a story, you can imagine the rest of the story. If you see a scene in a movie, you can know the rest of the movie. If you hear a part of a song, you know the rest of the song. And if you're in a room, you know what you can do there. And if you move to another room, you have an idea, you're prepared for it. And that's what the brain does. It prepares you and it sensitizes you to opportunities and dangers in the situation that it thinks you are in, because it thinks you're in that situation because it's being triggered, because you also never know how a situation will present itself. And that's what the brain does. It doesn't have any fixed concept of reality, but that's also kind of a risk. And the main risk that I perceive in education is this one, that and I hope I will make it, but I'm sure I won't. But basically I think there's distinction between two types of people. One type is primarily focused on experiencing reality without interference or instruction from other people. And the other type is almost addicted to it, almost addicted to instruction of other people. For the brain in the two persons, it's the equal situation, because the brain in two persons, in these both persons, cannot distinguish between somebody telling it what is true and it's itself experiencing what is true. And in education, I think it's important to make sure that you give a child a chance, or the child's mind a chance to learn to prefer the situation in which it is uninstructed and experiencing reality without interference by the opinions of others. You know, the extreme case where that is happening is of course in religious indoctrination, where people are completely instructed and always told by somebody else what reality is, either by books or by preachers, and they're even super disinterested in experiencing life themselves. And that creates a lot of risk, because those people have a reality that can be easily manipulated by others, by which you get a sort of kind of a power structure and easy domination of these minds. They're natural minds, there's nothing wrong with it, but they've just been trained to prefer to listen to other people or listen to written word. And if you have an education system, I think it's wise to make sure that the children first off learn that they themselves, without interference, can experience reality and draw conclusions and make an analysis. So they are independent in their mind. And of course you always tell them history stories which are unverifiable basically, and all kinds of other truths that you think are useful to them. But as long as they prefer their own analysis, you always have a kind of a sanity check in your population, and that's important, I think.